Okay, you'll have to excuse me if the podcast today doesn't make any sense. Everything has gone wrong in the past 24 hours. We've had to emergency switch all our bedrooms around because Alba is crawling and just will not go in a cot or a crib. So we literally landed back from South Africa and then had to move furniture and everything around. So yeah, and there is a million pieces of clothes just everywhere. There has been so much laundry to catch up on. I've been doing 2 loads a day and putting on 1 load to go on like early in the morning on the timer. And I had just completed the washing pile. I was so pleased with myself. And then James, as he was going to bed last night, was sick everywhere. So that was 98 other items added to the laundry pile. And then this morning, Alba somehow pooed right through the side of her nappy just as I was about to change her first thing in the morning. None of it went in the nappy. It just went straight on the carpet and then she crawled through it. Oh, and then I gave her tuna at lunch and she came out in a massive rash. So I called and made a GP appointment and they were really nice. Managed to get a GP appointment for 8 o'clock on Friday. And I thought, oh, that's great. I can go before the school run. And then the confirmation message came through and it's for 8 p.m. So yeah, that'll be fun. Taking a really tired baby wanting to go to sleep to the GP at 8 o'clock. But still very grateful to be getting to be seen soon. So yeah, everything is chaos. The house is chaos. No one knows who's sleeping where. I can't find any clothes. Everything is covered in bodily fluids. And we've also got a bunch of really boring life admin tasks to sort out as well, like updating our car insurance. So yeah, I appreciate these are all very small first world problems, but don't you just hate days where everything goes wrong? I don't like chaos. It's not for me. So anyway, let's crack on. So I have to apologise for missing an episode last week. I hope you weren't all too devastated. I do have a good reason. So since before Christmas, my 3-year-old James has just been a nightmare at bedtime. He looks tired and we do all our usual routine of teeth and milk and stories, but then he will literally lie in bed for hours and not go to sleep. So he's not been going down till 9:30 at night, and then I go to bed at 10:30, and Alba is just awake all night, and then we get up at 7 to start the day. So there has not been one single second to do anything for the podcast. So that's my excuse. But anyway, I thought I would talk about toddler sleep because sleep, or the lack of it, just continues to rule my life. So yeah, I'm Rachel, by the way. I've got a 6-month-old called Alba and a 3-year-old called James, and this is 10,000 Steps with Baby. So yeah, previously I've done a whole episode on baby sleep and I've got a lot of thoughts on that. So please go and have a listen and I'll link the episode in the show notes. But I ended that episode basically saying that at around 18 months old, James, after being an atrocious sleeper since he was born, just started sleeping a bit better without us doing anything. But really that was sort of just the beginning of the story. So he was 18 months and he stopped waking up every 2 hours like clockwork. And at this age he was having 1 nap in the middle of the day, and he was at nursery and I had been back at work for about 4 or 5 months. So he did continue to wake up in the night, but it would usually just be once or maybe twice. And the issue we had at this time was that he would be awake for a long time, like 2 hours. And he wasn't like awake wanting to play or get up, but he would just lie quietly stroking our hands as we lay beside him. But we would still be stuck there in this really uncomfortable position for hours in the middle of the night. Or he would want to breastfeed, but he wasn't really taking any milk, just sort of using me as a human dummy. So we got a mattress topper that we had. We put it on the floor beside him. He was on a floor bed at this point because he was climbing out of his crib, but he would, have rolled off a toddler bed. And this is the bit that, looking back on, I can't really work out why we did this. But essentially that was our setup for about 6 months. So it was just us lying for 2 hours on a mattress topper. So he would wake up about 2 a.m, we'd lie down beside him, and then we'd go back to bed. I think we were either so sleep deprived that we couldn't think of anything else, or we were just living in hope that, next week it wouldn't be like this. So yeah, for some reason it didn't cross our mind to make the situation more comfortable, and to put like a proper bed there or to put pillows and blankets. I think we were just really sleep deprived. And then at some point we realised that if we were going to be lying there for all this time, then we might as well have a duvet and a pillow, and so we could drift off to sleep a little bit. The reason you couldn't fully go to sleep is that if he wasn't feeding, James would do the most annoying thing in the world, which was to aggressively stroke your hand. I can't really explain what it was he was doing. He would twist your fingers round and pick at your nails, and it was really, really difficult to fall asleep when he was doing this. It used to drive me and Jack absolutely bonkers, and he'd wake up immediately if you removed your hand. To this day, if me and Jack want to wind each other up, we grab the other's hand and start doing this, and it just brings back this flood of suppressed trauma. So anyway, so James was about 2 now, and he had stopped breastfeeding at some point between 18 months and 2 years. He only did it at night for quite a few months, and then at some point I realised he hadn't fed in about a week, and that was that. So that was a bit sad. I wish I'd realised last time he'd fed that was going to be the last time, but there you go. I guess you never know when it's the last time that they'll do something. And yeah, he was big enough now that if he woke up, he would just run through to our room. So we'd either hear these little pattering footsteps down the hall and then he'd appear beside our bed, or I'd be woken up from sleep by him suddenly digging his elbow into my eyeball as he clambered over me to get into the middle of the bed. And a small sleepy child climbing into bed beside you is probably one of the loveliest feelings in the world. They've got their warm little bodies and their tufts of hair sticking up and milky breath, and it's gorgeous for about 13 seconds, and then it just becomes the 7th layer of hell. So the tufts of hair immediately go straight up your nose, and they are hotter than the sun after they've been pressed up beside you for a few minutes. They turn over constantly. They fling their arms around and smack you in the face every 30 seconds. And no matter what you do, they will somehow get themselves completely horizontal in the bed. So you are clinging to the edge of the bed with one or both of their feet intermittently smashing you in the chin. So we did this for quite a while, but it was just completely hopeless because neither me or Jack was sleeping once James joined us in bed. So we started taking it in turns to just go to sleep beside James once we were ready for bed. And we were still sleeping on this mattress topper, by the way, but at least we had blankets and pillows. And that worked really well. He would wake up, but when he realised we were there beside him, he would often just roll back over and go to sleep. So he still smacked into us all the time. But overall, this was a pretty good time, and everyone was getting quite a lot of sleep. And he was just a bit older than 2, and I found out I was pregnant with Alba, and we were like, we just need to accept that this is going to be a long-term situation instead of waiting for things to improve. So Jack bought a single mattress and we put it beside James's toddler bed, so it's all on the same level, and that just became him and Jack's room, which was nice because it meant I got actual sleep while I was pregnant. I saw this completely unscientific Facebook article that said that how the mother sleeps, like when she's pregnant, affects how the baby sleeps when they're born, like if they're a good sleeper or a bad sleeper. I'm pretty sure that is completely made up. I've never fact checked it, but when you're pregnant and you just get spooked by anything, so I was like, oh my god, I need to sleep, otherwise this second baby is not going to be a good sleeper. And yeah. But no joke, you do need to sleep when you're pregnant. You get so tired and you need that sleep. So the downside at this point, because there's always a downside if there's a win, was that bedtimes just became insane all of a sudden. He had been pretty good at going to sleep quite quickly, but now he started not be tired until 10 or even 11 o'clock at night, and we realised we needed to stop his nap. So I can't even tell you how gutted I was about this. I think I actually cried. He would still easily nap for an hour or 90 minutes, maybe even 2. And on my day off with him or the weekend, this was, our only time. We had all week to chill out or read or relax, or get stuff done. So it was it was awful to lose, especially as I was in the middle of first trimester fatigue stage where I wanted a 2 hour nap every day. We did try just to limit the nap at first, to 45 minutes or even half an hour, but then we worked out that even a 10-minute doze in the car would mean he was up for hours. So yeah, it was devastating. It was also really challenging because he did need that nap still. So when we cut it out, we then had this psychotically tired 2-year-old for the rest of the day. And we also had to plan not to be in the car around midday, or we'd be desperately trying to keep him awake until we got home. And yeah, I remember driving home from a soft play or something in February with all the windows in the car down, blasting music, trying to keep him awake. And yeah, it is so annoying that when you've got gentle music and the white noise machine and dim lighting and milk and stories, it takes them 2 hours to fall asleep. But somehow in the car they can sleep through a bomb going off. But yeah, go figure. A trick we did find at this time, when we got rid of the nap, he still needed some quiet time at about midday, so I would let him just watch some TV and he would have some milk and lie on the sofa for about an hour, and that really helped him have a rest but still be ready for bed at a semi-reasonable time at night. And it was a chance I could sit beside him, read my book, or have a bit of chill time as well. So that was pretty good. And then we went back to having a relatively golden period of sleep. So James would go to bed about 7:30 or 8, and apart from rolling into Jack 24 times a night, he wouldn't wake up properly. And I was in my own comfy bed and could sleep until I was heavily pregnant. And then, you're getting up to pee and you can't roll over and you wake up anyway. And we thought that this was probably him finally sleeping through the night at 3. And to be fair, he sort of is, but we found that once Alba was born, Jack couldn't leave the room to come help me at all without James waking up and coming looking for us, which is a bit annoying. He can definitely somehow sense that Jack's not there, and it wakes him up. So at the moment, or up until just a few days ago, I was sleeping in me and Jack's bedroom with Alba, and she's unfortunately turning out to be a mad sleeper like James. So Jack did try and come and leave James to give me a hand in the middle of the night with some of the night wakings, but yeah, then James would wake up and then we would have just both of them awake in the middle of the night, which was a disaster. So like I said at the start, Alba has started crawling in the last couple of weeks, so we switched the rooms about now. So I'm in a single mattress pushed up against the toddler bed so that they're on the same level and Alba can't fall out of it, and I can just roll over and feed her in the night and then roll back. And I don't have the exact same worries about, squashing her in her sleep. And she's quite robust now because she's 6 months old and she can crawl and move around. So that doesn't worry me so much anymore. And Jack and James are in what was me and Jack's room. So yeah, that is our setup. I think if someone had told me when James was first born that he wouldn't be sleeping in his own bed alone at 3.5, I think I would have just laid down and died on the spot, because like I've said before, I really thought that it was just going to be the first 8 weeks or so where we wouldn't sleep. I guess maybe that's why nobody talked to me about what came after, because it wouldn't have helped to know. And yeah, it was probably better that I continued to live in hope that each week would be the week he started sleeping. Our tentative hope is that when Alba is maybe about a year old, we might be able to put them in a bedroom together. I've heard stories from quite a few people that sleeping with a sibling in the room can be just as reassuring as a parent, so we might try that if at that point Alba is sleeping a bit better. And the last thing I've got to say about this is the only other problem with us sleeping with the kids is that it's probably not ideal for me and Jack's relationship. I didn't realise, that the short period of time when we would just be lying in bed before we went to sleep was probably when we did a lot of our talking, just about funny stuff the kids had done or things that were going on, or just sharing funny videos from Instagram. But we don't have that at the moment. We just say goodnight and go to our separate rooms. But I've talked about similar in the podcast I did on how not to kill your husband. And so go and have a listen to that. And I think, this is just another phase of having young children and how it affects your relationship. But yeah, check back in with me, because you might find us in 5 years' time still sleeping in little single beds in the same room like a 1950s movie. But we'll see. So yeah, I don't know if this podcast has made any sense. I apologise if it hasn't, but I think the points I wanted to make was that if you've got kids of any age in your bed, then, I think it's really, really common and normal. So don't let anyone make you feel bad about it, or that you need to change it if you don't want to. Before I had kids, I thought, maybe very young children sleep in their parents' beds. And now that I talk to parents all the time about this sort of stuff, I realise that actually more kids are in their parents' beds than not. And why not? It's a place of safety for them. There's such a short period of your life that you can climb into your parent or your caregiver's bed, and if you have a nightmare or you're worried about something, and as a parent it's a short period of your life too, so why not just enjoy it and waste time not sleeping trying to fix it. That's my opinion anyway. And if you've got younger kids, then I hope this episode hasn't put the fear of God into you. I know plenty of babies, toddlers who napped till they were 4, or slept through the night from a young age. So don't see your future in this. It might be, but I hope not. And it's not that bad anyway, even if it is. So I'm just complaining a lot because I'm tired. So yeah, if anyone has any tips about getting siblings to sleep together in the same room, or if they have any other suggestions for us about how we should make it work, then I'm always looking for advice. Has anyone else's kid done the weird hand stroking thing? I have heard of some others, like a toddler only falling asleep if they had a handful of their mum's hair in their hand. So yeah, I'd be interested if there's any other sort of weird ones out there. And does anyone else have, their young kids sleeping in bed with them? Do you love it or do you hate it? I'd love to know. So yeah, thank you for listening. And if you haven't, then I'd love it if you would subscribe to the show on whatever platform you're using, and give it a 5-star rating if you like. And I will see you next week when, hopefully I'll have a little bit more brain. Okay, bye.